You've probably heard a lot about herbal remedies such as cannabis and CBD, but if you're like me, it all still seems a little mysterious, and I'd like to learn more. That's why our guest is a health and wellness professional who's here tonight to not only demystify these herbal remedies that can cure what ails you, but she's also going to share her powerful personal transformation about how these herbal remedies have changed her life in a dramatic way. Welcome to Boss Up Goddess. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I interview trailblazing women who share their wisdom to help us all live bigger, better, and bolder. The woman you are about to meet is Sam Schuh. She is a health and wellness professional who has an amazing personal transformation story that inspired her to embark on a career as a health and wellness professional specializing in herbal remedies that include CBD and cannabis. Welcome, Sam.
Hello.
I'm so excited to talk with you because you are a wellspring of knowledge about all of these things that just seem so mysterious and maybe even a little scary. So, can we start with you, please, telling your amazing story of how these herbal remedies have helped you in a dramatic way?
Absolutely. So I use this term, a headacher. So I have had chronic pain for quite a few years. My journey started the pretty traditional way. I woke up and I was in pain, and then it kind of continued. And so I went on a journey where I investigated with doctors. I was tested for various different things. And unfortunately, they never really came to an answer. One of the last doctors that I worked with regularly, in fact, said that I just might be one of those people who gets to live in pain the rest of my life. Um,
That's
exactly.
terrible.
Yeah, so I decided at that point that there must be a better answer. And at which point I decided to open my doors to everything. I found out very quickly that cannabis was a great solution to pain, but not necessarily a permanent solution in my day-to-day. I do currently use it day to day, but it wasn't necessarily something I could do when I woke up and went and worked out right away, right? So I had to come up with other solutions. And that in turn led me down the health and wellness road. I've always been very active. I've always been a dancer. I've always done things like that. So health and wellness wasn't new to me. Taking care of your body, putting good herbs and vitamin C in your body wasn't new to me, but the world of herbalism wasn't something that I had known at that time. I knew that cannabis was beneficial to me personally, and so I was very invested in getting a job within the cannabis industry. And through that, I found Breeze Botanicals. And Breeze Botanicals is where I am currently employed. But there, we are a little bit more than a dispensary. We're a little bit more of a full herbal apothecary. And through the access to all these extra herbs that I was having, I found a solution that was much more sustainable for my day-to-day in the wide variety of herbs that are available bioregionally, actually, and that the company that I was working for provided. So now currently, I don't take any pharmaceuticals for anxiety or pain or anything like that. I do have an emergency pathway. If it gets to the point where I am dysfunctional, then I have something I can take then. But for the most part, I am cannabis and herbs all the way, and I really enjoy that.
Mhm. I love it. I love your story. And it's not that you were just having a headache here and there or a little anxiety here and there. These were major problems that were impeding your life. And now you're free
Yeah.
to be Sam and do your thing in life and be a
So on
successful.
a good day, I could have two different headaches. On a bad day, I could have 5 to 7 different headaches, all with different forms, all with different things that kind of affect my body. And for those to be ruling my life, it was no longer a solution to my day to day. So I had to find something that was better.
Hmm. And so when you take these herbal remedies, they don't impede your ability to think straight. They don't make you sleepy, right?
Yep. Some of them are even uplifting. So for example, I take ashwagandha every day. Ashwagandha is an amazing herb. Many people know about it. It's kind of an adaptogen in that your body learns to deal with stress a little bit better. It gives you a little bit more of a boost of energy in addition to being able to deal with things that we call day-to-day stress. I really enjoy having that in my day-to-day, and I notice the difference when I don't take that herb.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. So I'm really excited, Sam, for you to demystify all these things because when I was growing up, we were told don't smoke marijuana. It's a gateway drug. It has THC. It's going to cause brain damage and stay in your fat cells forever. And it's dangerous and it was illegal at the time as well. So can you please explain how cannabis can be healthy and also what is CBD?
Yeah. So cannabis overall, the reason it works is because we have in our body an endocannabinoid system. So THC and CBD are both cannabinoids that are meant to function with this endocannabinoid system that we're naturally built with. Now, there isn't a whole lot of ways to get endocannabinoids in your body that we know of other than cannabis and hemp. So THC is the more well-known psychoactive cannabinoid that we talk about, right? It's the one that makes you high. However, it's also the one that reacts the best with the pain receptor, the CB1 and CB2 receptors in our brains. CBD is the hemp or less psychoactive form. So it's the cannabidinol. It's a word I have a hard time saying.
Okay.
But basically, it is an anti-mutation cannabinoid. Its main goal is to kind of help the body maintain homeostasis. That's why you hear things like anti-cancer, anti-inflammation, anti all of these things, because its goal is to help you with the things that we call aches and pains or everyday stresses. Its goal is to help those things kind of be subsided within the body. So CBD doesn't have any psychoactive properties, but it doesn't work all that great without a little bit of THC, simply because the receptors that accept THC and CBD don't necessarily fit just the CBD receptor. The THC one must be there in order for your body to take it on. For some people, it's going to be a little different than for others, right? So for me, can't necessarily take a lot of CBD, but for my grandma, she really enjoys taking CBD all by itself all the time, and it helps her with her everyday aches and pains. She does do
Wow.
it in a more maintenance, but it's just each person's a little different, and the journey's going to be yours to figure out.
Wow, fascinating. So, can you talk about all the different ways you can take these things?
Yeah, so there's quite a few different kinds of ways. For example, there's the traditional way we all know of, the flower, right? So the actual plant bud itself. We can smoke that. You can put it into your bong. You can put it into a joint. You can roll it up and do things like that. That's the pretty traditional way. And then for those who don't necessarily want to smoke or inhale, there are things like tinctures. So you can take a little tincture. It is an extraction of the product, and then that will allow for you to take it internally as opposed to smoking it.
Okay, so a tincture is like there's a squeeze bottle and you just drop a few things, I don't know, in a
Yeah.
glass of water, or how does it
So
work?
this guy here, this one is a coconut extraction, right? But it has a little dropper and you just drop the little things right on there. I do always recommend starting low with any tincture, starting low, going slow, and that way you can figure out what your dose is, because not everybody's going to be the same. But this is not necessarily your traditional way. Your naturopathic herbalist traditional way of doing a tincture is using alcohol to simply extract what you're doing or infuse, and then you take it that way. Kind of like if you were to make your own vinegar, infused vinegar, right? You put the things you want the vinegar to be infused with in it, and then it will take out the things that you want. So
Oh,
that's the traditional method.
uh-huh,
We have now graduated to things like coconut oil for ease of use,
uh-huh.
but there is lots of different kinds of ways to make a tincture, but basically it's drops that you put on a spoon or you take under your tongue.
Oh, you put them on a spoon or under your tongue. Okay, you don't mix it in a glass of water or put it on your food or anything.
Well, and that depends on the kind of tincture you get. So if you have one that's a coconut oil, those aren't going to be water soluble. The only way you can really take those are if you put them into your mouth directly, or if you do a little droplet on your food.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple way to do it. You can put it on your food. You won't taste it then. But if you're taking a couple at the same time, it might be easier just to throw them on in your mouth.
Okay, okay, excellent. Is it expensive?
So it can be, depending upon how much you're taking, how much your body quote unquote needs, right? So again, back to each person is a little different. So if you're somebody, for example, who takes this tincture, this is a 1,000 milligram CBD tincture. If you want to take, somewhere in the realm of 80 milligrams, then that would be a full dropper full. And this tincture would only last you about 32 uses. But 80 milligrams is kind of a lot depending upon who you are. So this tincture could last you 2 or 3 times that amount, simply because you're not necessarily taking the full dropper full amount. You're
Mm-hmm.
counting out your drops and maybe only taking 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of ways to extend your dollar in the cannabis world, simply by talking to your experts to figure out what might be the best plan of action for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent, excellent. So you're talking about all the different formats.
Yeah, so there was the tincture, which is currently one of my favorite ways to consume overall, simply because there's not a lot of extra calories. If you're, if you are somebody who does count your calories or your macros or your whatever you're doing in health and wellness, then you don't necessarily have to consider tinctures into that when you're consuming. If you want, there's also edibles. Edibles are the other way we've kind of heard of. And traditionally, you hear about things like baked goods, brownies, and things like that. Nowadays, popularized the gummy. Many people eat gummies and things like that. And I love them. They're wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, you are a little bit limited to your dosage when you're in an edible, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be a little bit more spendy depending upon how much you're consuming. One of my more popular edibles has about 10 gummies in it, and it's somewhere around $24. So if you take one of those every night for 10 days and then you do it again, you're spending somewhere in the realm of $48 a month simply to get your one gummy a day, when maybe a tincture might last you a little bit longer. You might spend
Oh,
$48 for 2 months.
oh, okay,
But that has to
fascinating.
do with state regulations. The
Mm-hmm.
state does have laws about how much you can put in a gummy. And so, when it comes to those limits, it might be more effective if you're using it medicinally to go the route of a tincture, simply because the dosage limits are a little bit less strict on a
Mm,
tincture.
okay. Fascinating. Okay, so there's edibles,
There's
gummies.
edibles.
Aren't there like cookies and other types of things?
Yeah, so in the edibles range, you have your sweets, your gummies, your cookies, your brownies. And then you do have savory. So some people are branching out into the realm of savory, and you even have cannabis cook professionals who base their entire catering career off of coming to your house and cooking cannabis meals for you and your friends or whatever. So there is very much a savory route to things.
Mm,
And then you can make your own at home pretty simply, by either decarboxylating, big word, but simply activating your cannabis in your oven, or you can get like a full extracted cannabis oil, a simple oil of extraction, and melt that down into maybe some butter, and you can cut that into whatever you want to cook with it. So you can
oh,
do it yourself
wow.
that way also.
Uh-huh. Okay, so Sam, what are some, besides killing pain, easing pain, what are some other uses for these herbal remedies in terms of health?
So quite a few people use herbal remedies, at least who come to my shop and speak with me, for overall body calmness, or otherwise referred to as anxiety, stress, fear, and worry. So we as people kind of get stuck into our ways, and we kind of get a little agitated and stressed out about all the things that we may be doing as humans because we must do it all, right?
Right.
But the reality is, if we slow down and kind of think about those things, we're able to do them better. Sometimes, unfortunately, our brains just don't want us to do that. And so we then have anxiety, and you can go the pharmaceutical route. No big deal. Definitely did that myself. Or you can kind of dive into the herbalism world. For example, I take passion flower. It's one of my
Uh-huh.
favorite tinctures. I take it every day, and it helps kind of with my overall body ease, kind of stress, allowing me to take kind of bigger breaths about my day and calmly think about the things I have coming next. So
Oh,
that's one of the things.
wow.
The other real big one, sleep.
Oh, yes.
Many people come in to help with sleep. And that can
Okay.
be something that's THC aided, that can be CBD help, and it can be herbalism. So, for example, if you combine valerian root with hops, you get a pretty powerful and long lasting sleep result, right? So those are the two most powerful ones that the research says. And if you combine them, obviously, you're going to get a little bit more power. And
Uh-huh.
so those two herbs are ones that I like to recommend to people simply to add into their diet, see if
Hmm.
it helps them, see if it works. Not everybody's going to like a valerian root. It's pretty powerful in its smell and taste. And not everybody's going to like hops. So unfortunately, just because it's the research says that it might help you doesn't mean it's going to be the right thing for you.
Mm. Wow. Okay. Okay. I've also heard of people who have chronic illnesses who use CBD, cannabis, and other herbal remedies to ease the pain and other symptoms. Can you talk about some of those?
Yeah, so CBD is one of those things, like we mentioned earlier, that is a little bit more anti-mutation homeostasis giving, right? So the goal is for your body to kind of use the cannabinoids to solve the problems that your body may need to solve. So, for example, my mother has rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease, right? And so within the autoimmune disease world, there's all these wide variety of things that may or may not help depending upon who you are.
Hmm.
I have found with my mother, for example, that if we have CBD in what I refer to as a maintenance dose, so not necessarily something that you can feel, but something that is just kind of there in your diet, when she is taking it consistently for 30 days, she has less flare ups of her rheumatoid arthritis. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody. I am unfortunately not a doctor and I cannot make that recommendation. However, this is what I've experienced in my mom and what I've
Uh-huh.
experienced in a few other people who have come into my shop for things like that.
Hmm.
Same thing with my brother who has diabetes, right? If I insist that he takes a small amount of CBD every day, even if he doesn't feel it, then he finds that he has less super spike high numbers on his days. Now, that also
Wow.
does have to do with how you eat and everything else, because health and wellness isn't one answer, it's a full picture. Got to be
Hmm.
drinking the right amount of water, you got to be eating enough greens and vegetables. There's a lot of other things you got to be doing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But he finds when he's adding these kinds of things into his daily diet that he is finding overall better results or more maintenance levels.
Wow, that is fascinating. And when you said, I am not a doctor, I want to ask, are people supposed to check with their traditional physician before they use these herbal remedies or not? Or do
I
most
mean,
of,
so I always recommend check in with your physician, right? Because I am not a doctor. I did not necessarily go to school for 4 to 8 years to become an expert within medicine.
Mhm.
However, I do a decent amount of research. I do know a lot of things, and I experiment on myself. Experiment on myself and my mom, because she has ailments and we can do those things. We do speak to her doctor every time we change something in her herbalism regimen.
Mm.
It is something that I do recommend you do. But again, most doctors recommend that you increase your healthy food intake, right? And hops are just food that we put into tinctures.
This is so fun, super informative. Oh my gosh. And you are the store manager and marketing rep at Breeze Botanicals in Ashland, Oregon. So, Sam, can you talk about how, if at all, things have shifted during the pandemic in terms of use of herbal remedies?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I would definitely say that people were a little bit more fearful, but I think that they were more fearful of going to new places than they really were fearful of trying new herbs. I have found in times of mass sickness, so where large groups of people are getting sick, that people tend to kind of delve into other solutions to try to get their body a little bit more healthy, right?
Hmm.
So I have found that I've gotten a lot more phone calls and a lot more questions, but not necessarily a lot of new people coming in. So my advice to anybody looking for any kind of thing is go and ask the questions, right? Go
Hmm.
ask the
Hmm.
questions about your own health and be your own advocate.
Be your own advocate. I love that. Have people been asking about immune boosting herbal remedies?
They have. So there's a lot of different kinds of immune boosting remedies. We talk about them in the store. One of the more important ones, one of the ones we like to highlight, elderberry, elderflower. It is an extreme one, and lots of people know about it. I enjoy talking about it. It helps the body kind of build its immunity to block the things out, as well as kind of fight them. It's one of those herbs that has quite a few uses simply to boost your immune system. We
Hmm.
do talk about them. We've got lots of them in stock.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I saw an article about how you deliver to people, but since the pandemic started, right? Or was that
Yeah, so
before?
we, as of the March of last year, we are able to deliver within our zip code.
Uh-huh.
So in Ashland, we are able to deliver to you in your home following guidelines, as well as if you're 21 and over,
Mm.
um, to your home within the 97520 zip code that my business is within.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Wow, fascinating. So, what's the most common question people have when they come in your shop?
Most common question is, definitely what are your CBD products?
Uh-huh.
um, they're interested in that. And then, how can I boost my immunity? What are you doing for your pain? That's a lot of people like to ask me specifically what I am doing
Oh,
for my pain.
uh-huh.
I have
Wow.
gotten a little bit of a rep as a headache person. People come looking for me for that, which is I love. I love being able to
Wow.
share that with
Yeah.
people.
Uh-huh. That's awesome. Awesome. So, a question also that comes up is, are these things addictive? Is CBD addictive? Is cannabis
So I
addictive?
think anytime you are self-medicating, right, where you are doing the research or not doing research and finding something that makes you feel a little better,
Mm-hmm.
that feeling 100% can be addicting.
Okay.
I think the feeling of making yourself feel better can always be something that you are addicted to. However,
That's a good thing.
exactly. However, THC and CBD themselves have not been proven to have addictive qualities.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are some things about them that can be considered addictive, i.e., feeling better. But I don't think overall that they are truly associated with addictive qualities. But again, I'm not a doctor. I can't guarantee that you might not be addicted to it. But I
Uh-huh.
do tend to think that when someone comes and says, oh, my child was addicted to it, I ask them questions like, were they happy? Was your child happy?
Oh.
Was there maybe something else going on? Did you talk to them about why they were interested in finding that or
Oh.
going that route?
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes the answer is no. So I
Mm-hmm.
do find that there's other reasons that people may become addicted to things like cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Wow.
just,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's an excellent answer. I agree with you. So Sam, what's the biggest misconception people have that you've noticed about the work that you do?
That stoners are lazy.
Okay.
Well, that's my saddest one to hear. Well, all the time, right? We think of the stoner sitting on the couch, or the person who smokes weed and all they do is eat and sit.
Yes, yes, yes. That's true.
Unfortunately, that is not true.
Hmm. Hmm.
There are a decent amount of people who do that, right? You get home from work after a long day, you smoke your joint or eat your tincture, and you lay on the couch and you don't move for a few hours.
Right, right. Yeah, people
Okay,
do that.
right?
Hmm.
That's perfectly acceptable. But I
Hmm.
think that there is a misnomer about the functional cannabis user. I don't think many people, when I, for example, go home and visit my grandparents, would just be like, oh my gosh, she must consume weed all day long, because I don't appear to be any different other than happy and uplifted and ready to have a conversation.
Oh.
So I think that there is a little bit of a misnomer about the average functional cannabis user. I
Mm.
work out, I lift, I do all these fun things. I just drove to go visit my grandparents. There's plenty of things that we do as functional human beings who happen to consume cannabis.
Hmm. Wow, that's fascinating. There's been such a radical shift because, first of all, it used to be illegal. And secondly, that instilled in us all these different um, cons- perceptions about it, including those that were instilled in us in the just don't use, say no to drugs era that I grew up in. So it's a big mental adjustment. So it's really fascinating to talk with you about all the wonderful herbal remedies that can cure what ail people. So Sam, what do you see as the future? Do you see this as something that's going to be growing and becoming more commonly used, better understood? What's your thought?
So I do think it's going to be something that is going to be more commonly used and more thoroughly understood. We actually have had our first round of cannabis graduates from colleges in the last couple of years who are going into it for an agricultural standpoint, where they're trying to, study the plant as a whole, see its scientific properties, see what it can and cannot do, what its limitations are, and see if they can expand on that. I think that is 100% going to be the realm that some things take. And I do also think that there's going to be a little bit of a boom in the full herbal apothecary, the dispensaries who are talking about all the herbs that grow in their bioregion, right? So
Mhm.
not just cannabis, not just the flower, but
Mhm.
all the other plants and herbs that may grow around you.
Mhm.
Because where cannabis is the most medicinal herb in the world, it's not the only one.
Fascinating. Oh my gosh. Okay, what's one other thing you really want people to know and understand about CBD, cannabis, and herbal remedies that maybe we didn't touch on yet?
Well, I mean, I simply think that everybody should ask the question. Everybody should try it one time. It's not something that, it is as scary as the media and things like that have made it. I take it. I'm a decently functional human being who you can talk to when you see on the streets. Um,
So
it's not
cute.
something that is meant to be scary. It's just a
Mhm.
plant. And we made it scary by some misinformation.
Wow, fascinating. So if people want to get in touch with you and learn more, how can they reach you?
So I'm at Breeze Botanicals 7 days a week because the store is open, but I'm there 5 days a week.
Hmm.
You can get in contact with me through my social medias. You can find me at breezebotanicals.com. You can also email me if you want. There's quite a few ways to get a hold of me currently.
Good. I'll put the website and your email address in the description box. So if anybody has any questions, because you're so well versed in all of this, you're just such an expert on all these topics and it's fascinating. I have a million more questions. So, Sam, I really want to thank you for sharing your brilliant insight because I have a much better understanding of CBD and cannabis and herbal remedies. I just feel more empowered about all of it, not confused and scared. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. I was extremely excited to be here.
Oh, great. Well, you were awesome. And I'm certain that everybody watching is going to step away with a way better understanding about what these things are that we keep hearing about. You see them in the stores. It's like, what? And so maybe you have demystified. I know you've demystified it, but also hopefully alleviated a little fears people might have around trying some of these remedies that could help them. So thank you.
Well,
And
I
thank
look
you for
forward to
sharing.
seeing everybody.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you, Sam Schuh, for sharing your expertise as a health and wellness professional and also opening up and sharing your personal story about transforming with the help of herbal remedies.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, all of you, for joining me tonight on Boss Up Goddess, where we got to hear Sam Schuh share her brilliant expertise about cannabis, CBD, and herbal remedies that are helping people ease pain and deal with long term chronic illnesses that are very uncomfortable and they're feeling better thanks to her help and all of these wonderful products. So I hope you learned something today. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and remember, boss up, goddess, you have the power.